Yet another Macbeth adaptation, 3 this year itself that we are aware about. We had Dilish Pothan's Joji earlier this year, one of the most innovative contemporary adaptations of the classic, and we are dying to watch Joel Cohen's The Tragedy of Macbeth, starring none other than Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, which is expected to heavily impact the award season next year. And now in between we have Mandar, the Bengali adaptation of Macbeth, directed by one of our favorite contemporary Bengali theatre and cinema actor, Anirban Bhattacharya. Anirban is a friend of Filmcopath and has previously graced the channel to discuss Chiriyakhana and Hirak Raja Deshe as a part of the Satyajit Ray centenary celebrations. In our bit of shameless self-promotion, we urge you to check that video out too. Now coming back to today's topic. We watched Mandar, and putting it bluntly, without much fuss, the series has ample positives and is a good few steps forward in maturing Bengali OTT content from India, and overall in context of Bengali cinema. But that doesn't mean it is devoid of blemishes and regular issues that slam Bengali cinema for the last few years. And so we are here to discuss all that today in this analysis of Mandar, the new limited series streaming on Hoichoi. Before moving on, here's once again requesting your support so that we can move on and bring to you more content like this one. First things first, let's talk about the positives. Anirban gets most of the basics right, from casting to camera to ambience, which automatically makes Mandar watchable enough. This itself is something that gets hardly managed by most of the celebrated mainstream Bengali directors, and that Anirban accomplishes in his very first attempt is a notable feat that raises expectations from him. Note that we mention mainstream, and mainstream it is. We are clueless of what exactly Hoichoi tries to suggest in tagging Mandar as world classic. Not saying a mainstream content cannot be a classic, but something of course doesn't get tagged to be a classic upon release. Do not get your expectations confused by the somewhat gimmicky trailer or such unnecessary tagging. Watch it as a pure mainstream content and you will get better of the film. Anyways, as we were saying, the basics work right in Mandar. Belonging to the theatre background, Anirban's cast is almost 100% reliant on strong stage actors, most of whom have hardly got their due on screen, even though they have been around for so many years now. Veteran stage actors like Debesh Roy Choudhury, Loknath De or Shankar Debnath bring the much needed groundedness and reliability to their characters and the overall ambience of Mandar. Stage newcomers like Debashish Mondal as Mandar or Porok Shamunto also brings in the freshness to the atmosphere, which would be lacking if known faces of Bengali industry would have been cast in these roles. It's this freshness that carries Mandar the most, something we all were wanting to get from the Bengali content. More so, freshness coming from the glossy mainstream which has been lacking for decades now, which Mandar successfully brings in, a reason enough to talk about this series. Of course, there's a star who brings in the much needed interest quotient to the project. Anirban himself as the sinuous villain Mukaddar, the snake-like inspector in charge, and Sohini Sarkar, who tries her best to bring out a Lady Macbeth in flesh and blood, even though the script limits her more to an image than a character. Shojal Mondal as the old witch lady Mojnu and young actor playing her son Pedo deserves special mention. They are good, though a bit too theatrical and often exaggerated, but carries through all those difficult sequences they feature in. And anyway, the theatrical elements doesn't come as a surprise when an actor, basically belonging to the stage, directs for screen. That too is a freshness in some way. For years now, the Bengali mass movies have looked almost the same. The same color palettes, the same filters, the same camera angles, similar compositions. You can hardly distinguish one from the other. Mandar, however, is a clear deviation, and the camera work really works across the 5 episodes. And wherever it doesn't appeal that well, you still have that sense of a failed attempt, which was at least trying something different. More than a few scene shifts in Mandar impressed the most, with one motif in the previous scene interestingly leads to the other in an organic way. Say when Mandar is coming back to Gilpur to murder Dablu Bhai, the Duncan of the story, his bike passes a marriage van, And as the vehicles cross, the scene shifts to Mandar's own marriage, where we find Mondal loathing W. Bhai's actions, perhaps for the first time in his life. Shomik Haldar, the cameraman behind Mandar, has been a part of many other mainstream Bengali content, is happy to experiment with its visual, builds in intelligence in them with clues to the plot, and looks strategically different is the biggest takeaway of Mandar. To be fair, it's not that there aren't any visual gimmicks here. The extreme close-up of the lips and the teeth or the meat are cliched motifs which Mondar significantly invests into, continuously emphasizing to build on the atmospheric tension which was already built in. Those unnecessary harping actually takes away from the organically built ambience rather than supporting it for the better. What works for the ambience though are the intelligently put motifs of Bengali mainstream cinema and film music, establishing the time and space of the film. For instance, there's a character watching Ankush film at home where the star plays both hero and villain, which interestingly might apply to Mandar or Macbeth. W. Bhai is obsessed with those silly Bengali numbers we had playing at the puja pandals till only a few years back, which you will still find in Bengal district interiors where the film is set. And Anirban's Mukaddar and Debashish's Mondal facing each other for the first time with Fulkan Lal Hoy playing at the background is a pure joy. You see, Anirban's tributes to Tarantino isn't limited to the chapter-based storytelling and jittery camera angles only. He does bring in some pulp fun to his making as well. W. Bhai's house or Mondar's hut, the Toto on the roads, the wardrobe of almost all the characters are carefully worked so that the time-space coordinates of Mandar come across relatable and tense ambience is built. And then there are the cliched props like a red sunglass or long laid saris that slam the same ambience to a good extent. It feels like Anirban is caught up shifting between the theatrical vibes of the stage and the sophistications expected from the medium of cinema. Mondal would have been a much better product had he been able to settle between one of the two worlds. He doesn't, and Mondal mostly suffers in those overlaps. However, the biggest problem of Mondar lies in its script. If you know Macbeth in and out, Mondar would work fine. But unlike Joji, which can be watched and enjoyed without the adaptation baggage, Mondar will feel disjoint for someone not exposed to the Bard's play. By the way, the Joji review is also available on the channel. Please go and check it out. Mondar being adamant to kill Fontu, Sohini's Laili, the Lady Macbeth, getting obsessed with washing clothes just after W. Bhai's murder. These are plot points that the original text had built up, unlike here that appears like sequences plugged in without any build-up. Mondar, the character itself, needed to be baked better. His loyalty for W. Bhai is not established that well to justify the hallucinations he has later in the story. After all, he didn't have them for Mokai, his closer friend that he murders for W. The entire setup built around the fishing business in Mednipur, which seemed to have a clear reference to Paddai, the Tulu adaptation of Macbeth by Abhay Simha, is not used enough in this narrative like Paddai had done. And Sohini's obsession in giving childbirth that leads to all these events doesn't connect well or come across organic enough like it happened in Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, where the Lady Macbeth instigated Macbeth to shape the fate of her upcoming child. But then again, why do we at all mention Kurosawa here? Mandar is a Bengali mainstream and these comparisons might be pretty unfair even if the production house tags it as a world classic. Well, you see, across this analysis, while trying to talk about the positives of Mandar, we kind of meander into its problems, and when talking about the major problems, we cannot shy away from mentioning strong aspects of the series. That is exactly what our viewing experience was. And without waving off this effort because of its multiple flaws, we are here to emphasize on the hopes that Mandar brings in. Depends on the prism from which you look at it. That is all from us today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you like our analysis. Also hit a like and leave your comment. Thanks again.